All right, we are back. Episode 2 of the Broncos Zone. Let's go. Got some actual pump up, some hype music this week. Kind of makes me want to say, let's ride.
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know about that one.
I'm just kidding. Oh my gosh, we're gonna need something with Bo. If he's the long-term answer, we'll get something going. There'll be something he says or does.
I think
Hopefully
we're
no.
going with both.
Oh my gosh. Well, welcome back to Broncos Zone podcast. Excited to have everybody here. As you can see, we got a little bit of a smaller crowd this week. This will really be our format moving forward for all of our weeks. About 3 of us. We might switch it up a little bit for the draft because we're all excited. We all want to be here. But it's draft month. And we're kicking off this week with Broncos Path to the Draft, really focusing on the offensive side of the ball. We all know Broncos are in a win now situation. We've got our window, got a pretty stripped down draft board, no first round pick, no third round pick, 7 picks. We got a championship window, which is exciting. So we're going to go do a deep dive into the offense this week. Lot of interesting rumors that we'll be talking about, see what each of us are really kind of excited from a player perspective. But we'll start off like we did last week with trivia. Then we'll jump into our segments, which we're all really excited about. Please, if you already haven't, like, comment, subscribe, follow us. We'll absolutely be reading the comments throughout today's video, today's podcast. If you got any players you want us to go take a deep dive in, please let us know. All right, trivia. Our main man, Eric, our trivia guy's not here, so I had to take the reins. I have a feeling Coach is going to get this. I hope he doesn't get it on the first bat. I got a couple hints if we need it. All right. Who was a 7th round pick who got cut before his first game and ended up winning 2 Super Bowls as a Denver Bronco?
Man, that's a tough one there. 7th round. Oh man, stumped me on this one today. Generally what I'd go with on the 7th round, thinking about offense, would be Shannon Sharp. But I
got offense right. So there's our first hint. We got offense.
Yep, we got offense.
I don't know if he got cut. No, he was in. I was gonna say Terrell Davis, but he was undrafted, right?
No, he was drafted 6th round.
Oh, he was drafted 6th round. Okay.
Tom Brady before there was Tom Brady, so as that 6th round guy.
All right, second hint: offensive lineman, arguably one of the best offensive linemen in Broncos history.
Mark Schlereth? No, that's the only offensive lineman I know from the 2 Super Bowls. So, yeah.
Oh man, it's right there too. It's driving me.
Coach, I can't believe I stumped you.
I know. I'm struggling with this one, and I can see his face. Started right tackle. I'm going to say tight end from CU, but they converted him to an offensive tackle.
Nope. Unfortunately, no. Okay. I'll give it last hint. 94 is when he was drafted.
1994. Oh man, Tom Nalen. Cannot believe it took me that long on that one.
Yeah, I'm not getting that one.
No, not 218th pick, so 7th round. He was our 3rd 7th round selection that year. That's wild. We had 3 back then, but that's what it was. We waived him 2 days before the beginning of the season. No one claimed him off waivers. They brought him back on the practice squad, and then he finally got his shot. I think not in the beginning of that season. but eventually went on to win 2 Super Bowls. He played in 5 Pro Bowls. He helped 6 different running backs rush for 1,000-yard seasons, which is insane. So let's hope we can get a guy like this in the 7th round. I don't want to cut him before 2 games before the season, but who knows?
Right.
We'll see what happens.
Right. Well, and it's always one of those, since you brought up Terrell Davis. Interesting story with that one. Going in the 6th round, he was buried. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was 6th in the running back rotation. And the story goes that if Terrell, when they were in Japan for the international game, if he could have found someone to speak English, he was in the process of trading in his plane ticket to leave the Broncos, cut himself, and was going to come back to the States and do gosh knows what. And then obviously the game that they played against 49ers, got in the 4th quarter, him and Rod Smith, and the rest is history. Everybody's seen that hit that's out there. If you haven't,
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you what, that's a great one for sure. So it's amazing what some of those great players that you can go out there and find in the later rounds for sure.
100%.
It's a wild story. Wild.
Yeah.
All right. So second segment of our show is really talking about news of the week after trivia. So I've got Anklegate up here. We could talk a little bit about that. I am convinced that if something goes awry between Sean Payton and Bo Nix this year, we will continue to come back to Anklegate, and I don't want it to become a thing. But there were some rumors kind of swirling around there with a potential quarterback coming in.
Yeah. I find Mike Florio's comments on Aaron Rodgers coming in
Aaron
kind of groundless. I think he's personal conjecture. It just seems like he's trying to create a story on a slow news week. Or maybe he thinks that Aaron Rodgers would take a backup position, but even at 42, 43 years old, he could start for the Panthers today. No hate on Bryce Young. He just could.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just don't think his personality, in all honesty, we touched on it a little bit last week, in just bringing in that locker room. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers, if he's the guy, I'm sure there's things that he did in the Pittsburgh Steelers as to why there's some success. Some of the things that they had last year, and turn that around at least a little bit. But I think that, for Sean to do that, I just don't. I think he blows up the locker room by doing that. I think and then they're setting back to where they were before they drafted Bo, and were competing with Cleveland Browns for how many starting quarterbacks we have, over the last several years. I think it sets us back so far. So I wouldn't think Sean would do that, but of course, stranger things have happened. So
it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, to be honest. No, it makes zero sense. Again, it's groundless. It's just something. Last week seemed like a slow news week, so you got to say something.
Yeah, but it's crazy. 4 years ago, we had Nathaniel Hackett, and all the tea leaves we're reading, we're gonna get Aaron.
Right.
And then that was the year of Russ. But now fast forward, it's like, no, stay away, Aaron. He's good. He's got to go back to the Steelers. Steelers don't have a quarterback right now.
And with Mike McCarthy coming up, maybe, Aaron Rodgers has said that he doesn't have anything,
connection,
ill will towards him. So that seems like a decent fit for them. But I mean, with Bo at quarterback, I mean, there's a reason why we don't have as many sacks as other teams do in the season. And one part is that our O-line is really, really good. The other part is that when the defense does get into Bo's face, he has the legs to get around them and to move up in the pocket, move out of the pocket, make throws on the run to his right and to his left. And right now, that's not really Aaron Rodgers' game. It would be we'd probably have 10 more sacks because the man is a statue at this point.
Right. I agree with you. I think that sitting it back and not having somebody mobile, unfortunately, I think we would see the Garrett Bowles that we saw a couple of years back, where we just had that stationary guy, and that was all Bowles could do, was sit there and hold. I think it was the year for the season that we ended up playing the Dolphins. Got the 70 burger put on us, unfortunately, and to sit there and look at that. I mean, Bowles that was it. That was every single play. It seemed, holding number 72, holding number 72. And yeah, I think putting a statue back there put Bowles right back in it. And I think he appreciates having a guy to get out and help him out a little bit.
Yeah. So I think we're all in agreement that this isn't happening. This is just one of those things that you just put out to maybe cause some storylines, especially with Bo's ankle. But, reports are that Bo's even ahead of schedule than he would be regularly. So, that ankle holds up. We're, I don't care what our schedule is. We're making a deep run.
For sure.
100%. All right. What other kind of news items do you guys track in the past week? Again, it's been slow. Kind of this lull time between owners meetings, first team reported for offseason workouts because of a new coach. We're going to wait a little bit. Any other nuggets out there?
Well, the Giants had a pretty big splash in the news today and previous days with Dexter Lawrence requesting a trade, and then also John Harbaugh coming out and saying that jobs are not secure on the roster this year. So that could open up trade talks with even Kayvon Thibodeau. It could be, that Pat Brian Burns. It could be a dream to potentially trade for one of those players and have a dynamic defensive line, especially with Dexter Williams being able to trade for him and put him in the defensive tackle position. That'd be crazy.
What do you think the price would be on that, Braden, to get that one in?
Dexter Lawrence is getting older. With the sexy Dexy dance, I think maybe a first. But we don't have a first. I mean, it would probably be a second round pick, maybe a couple players, and then maybe another pick next year. He's a really solid player, but he is aging, and right now it's just kind of hard to tell. But he's productive and would very much suit the Broncos' defensive line. That's already strong.
Yeah. Brian Burns would probably excite me the most. I don't know if they're going to let any of their offensive young guns out.
Probably not.
It begs the question, what if we did draft Cam Scatterbo last year? Do we have the running back issues that they're not even issues, but the unknowns of this year? Obviously, we don't get RJ,
right,
but you could have had Cam.
Yeah, some of that too. Again, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Looking at depending on what they're doing during the season, whether or not Cam gets hurt, things like that. Again, we talked about continuing to talk about culture, building that young locker room, and some of the things when you look at a guy like RJ Harvey, good season. He was put a lot of production out there for what we asked, and obviously Dobbins together, but now Cam with all this talking about CTE, talking about some of those things. He's come out with a lot of stuff now that it's like, wow, I don't know, would this guy have been right for us? I mean, Jackson Dart, to me, and seeing what he did, that's the guy, like we're talking about Bo and building Bo. I mean, to me, quarterback is everything, and now you've got the quarterback of the future. And it seems like Cam is the one that's a little more outspoken. For the rest, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe another season, maybe you can do that. But right now, it's, all about the pretty quarterback and what he's doing and what he can bring to the Giants that they have been missing since the other Manning that used to be running around out there. So that's I don't know, man. Cam that would have been a tough one. Super exciting at the time, but looking at it, I don't know. I don't know how him and Dobbins would have fit the same backfield together. Also,
Yeah, it's a
might
good
have
point.
taken some wear and tear off of him for sure, but
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, if this is true, and I'm not going to say we've got a fire sale in New York, but there's going to be some competition. We know Harbaugh's got his own DNA, just like Sean Payton's got his DNA of a team. Not surprised that we're going to see these changes, but I mean, you don't want to lose great players, but they also got to fit the mold. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, my best bet was that where John Harbaugh came out and said that was probably just in a response to Dexter Lawrence requesting a trade. That'd be my best guess. My honest opinion is I don't think they're going to want to trade any of those players, but they will if they have to. Dexter Lawrence will probably be traded to somebody if he really does sit out of training camps and OTAs and the sorts of that. I see that happening, but I don't really see anything with the likes of Brian Burns or Kayvon Thibodeau, especially if they do trade Dexter Lawrence. But yeah, I think it was just a response to it.
Well, I saw one that was interesting to me with obviously with Broncos picking up Jaden Waddle was talking about the Arizona Cardinals, the New York Jets looking at Troy Franklin and some of those opportunities and get some, again, there's a lot of receivers. Seems like as long as you got a bunch per camp, somebody's going to come out. It's funny how those things can change. Looking at little Jordan Humphrey was playing for the Giants, and then all of a sudden here it is 3 weeks later, and he's coming over and playing with us. Didn't do a whole lot, but he certainly added that big body. And so to me, it's interesting to see, is there something we could get? Maybe another third-round pick for Troy, possibly. They're talking about the best depth they've had, looking at Waddle, Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, and little Jordan Humphrey. I mean, that's pretty decent. You pick up a guy or two either off the street or picking them up, in a late round draft pick. That could be an advantageous pick or trade for us for sure.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we look back at last year with Devon Vele. I mean, Vele was in the plans for the Broncos, and then the right price popped up, and you're off to the Saints, buddy. Like, it's just one of those things where we love to have you. I personally love Troy Franklin and his big playability, but if if the price is right, yeah, that could absolutely happen to anybody. I think the only receivers you kind of really say we're keeping right now is obviously Waddle and Cortland Sutton, and everybody else kind of seems to be on the same level of tradability. I mean, we were talking a week or two ago about Marvin Mims getting traded because of the Waddle trade. So I just think for the right price, just about everybody in that wide receiver room could probably be traded somewhere else.
Sure.
Yeah. I put like Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin on that same level. Pat, the Broncos just didn't start and didn't have him in the scheme for majority of the beginning of the season. I might even got the ball till like week 6. I was at a home opening game, 2 seats behind Pat's dad and grandfather. I'm sure they had to go get those jerseys custom made because unfortunately they're not selling Pat Bryant jerseys at the team store. But like I was yearning for, put the rookie in. Like, let's go. Dude's tall. He's athletic. He fits the mold of a Sean Payton offense. He picked it up over the duration of the season, but then he had, I think it was concussions, right? A couple concussions.
Yep.
Or maybe some other injury. So just like couldn't stay healthy. Troy Franklin had some drops. So, yeah, I mean, they're both at risk this year. Will Jordan might not be super exciting, but he's reliable, and that's what Sean Payton likes.
Right.
So we'll see. It's gonna be interesting. I like Troy. maybe I'm like in love with the Oregon connection between him and Bo because they were great there.
Right.
And like you want your quarterback to have that security blanket. And it definitely felt like Troy was that at some points.
Sure.
But I don't know. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. I go back to, wishing that, as much as I hate to say it, I wish Drew Lock would have figured out how to put it together. It irritates me that Drew's got a Super Bowl ring, unfortunately. But, adding Albert O out of Missouri, I thought that would have finally given him an opportunity to settle, find that guy and kind of roll with it. And, unfortunately, that one just never materialized out of there, too. And certainly Drew found his way very quickly in the doghouse. But yeah, that was irritating last year to sit there and have to deal with him winning the Super Bowl before the Broncos.
Yeah. Well, with Drew Lock, sadly, I bought his jersey. It was
that's the curse. You can't get it too soon.
I got it his second year, like after they won in New England, and I was just like, nobody under, no rookie quarterback goes into New England, goes into Foxborough and beats Bill Belichick, and I was sold, even though he threw 2 interceptions that game. I did it. I was just, but that's hanging up in my closet. Debated on putting a duct tape on it and putting Wilson, and that that didn't work out either.
Smart. Yeah. Going back to the Peyton years, I waited a couple games because I was like, he's older, coming off some insane neck surgeries. But I think it was like 2 games, and I was like, okay, I've got to get the Sheriff's jersey. And that's the last QB jersey I've purchased. Thought about Russ. I was super excited about Russ. I was like, oh, we're just going to run it back. We're doing Peyton Manning 2.0. Russ was younger than A.A. Ron at the time. So that was exciting. Then I go to training camp. Dude couldn't hit like the stationary net targets. And I was like, uh-oh, we're in trouble. And Russ is short. He's just a short dude.
Right.
And then we lived through hell, but we're back. We're back.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. With a lot of cash. That's the nice part. Having a lot of cash back.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to get back to training camp and see all the improvements to Dove Valley.
Yep. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they move in this week.
I think it's due. I don't know exactly when. I'm not sure if it's going to be open to fans. We'll have to look into that. That'd be fun to go check out a training camp together.
One of the things I had seen. Go ahead, Braylon. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. I was just saying that I was at the last 2 training camps, and maybe got a little excited and got a Bo Nix jersey as well. So that one's worked out so far. But go ahead, Jim. Good.
No, I was just going to say, I actually saw last week they were talking about for training camp this summer. They're talking about putting in, it'll be double the size of the stands that they had in for the fans last year. So that's going to be a big help because those metal stands weren't a lot. But I did see the year after that, they're actually talking about putting the berm back in.
Cool.
And boy, I'll tell you
everyone loves that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I'll sit on the grass. I got no problems with that. I remember, again, thinking about the old days, I remember going up and seeing the Broncos and the Cardinals had a practice before they had their preseason game. And this is still when they were up at UNC up in Greeley. And they had 65,000 people out there on that grass field that was along the practice field out there. Biggest crowd I'd ever seen. And then, of course, the Broncos, have to pare it down because of the fire department and everything out there at the new facility. But it's gonna it's kind of a bummer, but it's such a great opportunity to for fans to get out there that can't afford the tickets and get those early opportunities to see those guys go. So kind of a neat opportunity. It'd be great to see it this year, obviously, but next year I'll be curious to see how much it is back to the old days of putting everybody out on the grass and getting sunburned out there.
Yep, absolutely. Couple months away, and hopefully we're going to see a new class of rookies that really impress. So let's get into it. Favorite time of year, getting ready for the draft. Again, this week we're diving into the offensive side. Next week, tune in. Everything will be focused on the defense, strengthening one of the top 3 defenses in the league. It's going to be hard to beat, but can't wait for that. Recap of the Broncos picks, 7 total picks. So day 2, we only have 1 pick. End of the second round, pick 62. And then going into the third and final day of the draft, we've got 2 fourth rounders, pick 108 and 111, 1 fifth rounder at pick 170, and then 3 7th round picks, 246, 256, and of course the last pick in the draft, Mr. Relevant, 257. So seven picks. I think we all pretty much know that there's room for some trades. If there's a player that the brass really likes, we're going to move up. So that's exciting. We don't take 7 players. It just typically doesn't happen. So excited to jump in with both of you guys as we think about who is the right fit. But kind of the gaps that I see that we've got, and it's good. We don't have a lot of gaps. We were a game away from the Super Bowl, but I think we all know like tight end is something we got to address. We got to get scarier and less predictable there. I've got running back, and then O-line depth, I think, is always important. We've got to be building that. But curious where you guys kind of see your areas of need. For this segment, we're each going to take a couple swings at players that we think would be a good fit, see how those skill sets align. How does the scheme fit? Really what I'm still going to say what Sean Payton wants. We'll see what the Davis Webb offense looks like. But let's jump in and let's start with who we think could potentially be drafted in round 2, whether we have to trade up a little bit or we stay pat at 62. Braden, who's on your list?
Last week I talked a lot about him, and I'm still going to talk a lot about him. Eli Stowers, 6'4", 235 pounds, ran a 4.5 140, had a 45.5 inch vertical. Great receiving tight end. He won't be the blocker, but we've got blockers. He has a little bit of a drop issue, but it doesn't seem like any other tight end in the draft doesn't have some inconsistency issue. But he's big, he's lean, he's fast. I think he's a perfect safety net if we want to move off Evan Ingram, or maybe move one of them to a more outside kind of position. Have a little bit of a mismatch on a smaller cornerback.
Yeah, I like the pick. I think a lot of mocksters are going that direction. I think it only makes sense if we trade Evan Ingram. Otherwise, you basically have the same, probably higher ceiling than Evan Ingram. Hey, it would be awesome if Ingram completely turned it around and had a monster second year here. We'll see if that happens. But it only makes sense if we can trade him. So it'd have to be before the draft, maybe even during the draft. We'd probably take a little bit of a hit and cover some of the salary there. But I like Stowers. Character-wise, I think he's a perfect fit.
He's younger too, so
he's younger. He's going to be cheaper.
Evan Ingram's 31 years old.
Yeah,
younger, cheaper. Yeah,
for sure.
Oh no, we got a Cowboys fan in the comments. Oh no!
Cowboys.
Oh no!
That is such a.
The Cowboys can take Evan Ingram. That's okay.
Yeah, we can certainly swing something along those lines, I'm sure, and send him to help out Dak for sure. I'm looking at a little bit different. We talk a lot about the run game. I know you mentioned running back, things like that we need to get in. Everything starts up front with the lineman. Guy that I'm kind of looking at, I think, is a guy that can get a little bit later in the draft. He's a left tackle out of Boston College. His name is Jude Bowery. At the combine, he ran the 40 in 5.08 seconds. Excuse me. He's 6'5", 314 pounds.
Big
And
boy's
some of the
moving.
games, yeah, he's scooting. There's no doubt about it. He's a big boy running through there. He got a 34.5-inch vertical jump, which, yeah, that's all right. I mean, we're not expecting him to go up and hoop it for us or anything like that, but it's one for me that I think if we can get some guys that can play swing on the line, they can get some things going for us, get our offense, get our running game going again. Again, with adding Waddle, you get those guys that'll come up, get those linebackers coming up on us. We end up going and get a guy like Eli Stowers that'll suck up on the run and get Stowers going right down the middle for us. And I think that's what certainly a lot of teams have used against the Broncos is that tight end and finding that perfect receiver going over the middle. And again, we got to give Bo time to be able to find that. I think this guy, I think he could be absolutely amazing for us, and we won't have to really move in the draft a whole lot. We get him in the 6th or 7th round.
That'd be stellar. I've got a couple O linemen I want to talk about, but for that round 2, I think running back would be a luxury. I think Jadarian Price would be interesting, although I saw a mock today that has the Seahawks taking him at 32, which would be crazy. Like, I think it's much higher than he should be drafted, but also Seahawks just lost Kenneth Walker. Kind of makes sense. Take a gamble. But tight end wise, Braden, I'm kind of your camp. Like, we still need this. The tight end draft market's thin. It's our boy Kenyon Sadiq, which I think we'd all like because the dude's a freak. But then it's a huge drop off. Like, it literally might be 2 rounds till we see a tight end picked. Stowers, I'm in agreement. Like, as long as we don't have Ingram or we figure out something different, I'd be interested. But I'm still looking for that kind of dual threat. How do we create mismatches, but we don't completely give away our hand every single time a dude's on the field? So the 2 guys that I saw, Max Clare, he played at both Purdue and Ohio State throughout his college career. Last year at Ohio State, 43 receptions, 448 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not great, but I was really looking at, like, what's your yard per reception average? 10.4. So, like, maybe he is that third down kind of threat. A lot of comps have him to Dalton Kincaid. Not bad. I would take Dalton Kincaid. Not an incredibly good tight end, but definitely in that second tier in terms of the NFL tight ends. The other guy that I liked, Sam Roush out of Stanford, and he's definitely more of that blocking first wide tight end. Pretty similar in terms of stats to Max Clare from Ohio State. In less games, Roush had 49 receptions, 545 yards, 11.1 yards per catch, and 2 touchdowns. But was the best pure drive blocker at the tight end position in the draft in this class. And so that kind of got me excited. Jake Ferguson was his comparison. So there you go. Larry, dude, there's your Cowboys comparison. Jake Ferguson would be a stellar tight end here. So those are a couple guys that I saw. I'm like, those look interesting. Now for Sam, and I think even for Max, like, they don't have the receiving capability that an Eli Stowers has. So that's something that we'd kind of have to fill the gap in. But for me, it's all about how do you scheme up and just not give away everything in your super predictable Sean Payton offense sometimes. Yes, execution matters, but we got to keep some of these defenses guessing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess if we're moving on to the next pick or I have Nick Singleton from Penn State, running back. I remember watching him and Love play in the college football playoffs a few years ago. And I just remember thinking I would take both of these guys, either one. Now, Jeremiah Love was definitely, the outstanding player with that touchdown where he just ran through 3 people and landed on his leg that he sprained or something along those lines. But just watching Nick Singleton run the ball, he's super explosive, great power, great balance. He does have some issues navigating the O-line holes, pass protection, and maybe a little bit of injury concerns. But I just look back at that game and think, as a big time player, big time moments, I think he would do well as the secondary back to J.K. Dobbins, at least for the first year. If Dobbins doesn't rejoin the Broncos the following year, maybe RJ Harvey and Singleton are that duo. But I really like him. I think him in the 4th round would be a pretty solid pick.
I like that pick. Yeah. And we could definitely get him in the 4th round, 5th round, potentially. Maybe we have to move up a little bit, but it'd be an interesting one. Obviously Singleton's a popular name. I wonder if any of his relatives are actually in the NFL, because we've got a couple other Singletons. Obviously not Alex Singleton.
No.
A couple other Singleton running backs. I'm curious. Maybe you got some cousins or uncles. There's
Devin Singleton. I'm sure, somebody could look that up and see if they have any relation, but but running back, I don't know.
The other running back that I've heard brought up, Mike Washington out of Arkansas. I don't know a ton about him. Bigger dude, 6'1", 223, ran a 4.33. I think the big knock on him was he fumbled the ball a lot, and then his pass protection was meh. But DMAC is in love with him. A couple other Denver media guys, so that'd be interesting. That might be a trade back into the 3rd round, maybe, or move up from your 4th round pick. But I don't know. So the running back draft is going to be really interesting this year, and it's going to be the no-name guy that probably finishes top of the class. Right. No offense to Jeremiah Love.
Well, and again, we have Mr. Irrelevant. So maybe there's another Chad Kelly out there who will surprise us. Hopefully not. But gosh knows, it's funny to get the Mr. Irrelevant. Of course, there's always a guy like Brock Purdy who is Mr. Irrelevant, and gosh knows he's really turned a pretty good career so far in San Francisco. So maybe there's, not that we need quarterback, but it'd certainly be nice to pick up that piece to be able to find somebody to get us over the hump for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Before I get to my O-line, I've got one kind of surprise wide receiver that I think would be really interesting. Now, I don't know how this fits in. Like Troy or Pat, maybe both of them would have to go. But Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana, so national champs. Crazy season. 69 receptions, 937 yards, 13.6 yards per catch, 13 touchdowns, basically from the slot. Like, we have not had a legit slot threat, in my mind, since like Wes Welker.
Yep.
Maybe there's a couple guys I'm missing since, but that'd be interesting because it fit wise, scheme wise, it's got to make sense. Bo does love those darts over the middle. That's probably where Waddle fits in, but it would be interesting to see. I mean, if we take a swing on a wide receiver earlier than the 4th round, that's probably pretty indicative of how the team feels about some of our depth there.
Sure.
I have Omar Cooper Jr. on my list as well, but
sorry to steal that dude's
impressive. No. I was gonna mention somebody else. But no,
Let's
that's
hear
perfect. It. No, I didn't. I just like this overall play. I've got 3 Indiana players on my list. It's like they're just solid fundamental players, and they,
Yep.
I just have no complaints with these Indiana guys. They're the Villanova of football right now, just fundamentally sound. Maybe not Villanova from this year, but I love that pick. I love that pick.
Yeah, I don't know where he's really gonna go. It's probably higher than we'd like. He's probably like mid-second round, which we probably won't reach for. But who knows? I mean, if they love him, that'll show us something. So we'll see. Who else do you have from Indiana?
Oh, I have Pat Coogan and Kalen Black. Those are my Indiana guys. I like Coogan a lot just because he's one of those versatile guys who could be a backup and just move anywhere around the O-line. But yeah.
Yeah, one of the running backs I was looking at also is Jonah Coleman out of Washington. He had 758 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns, added 31 receptions for 354 yards as a receiver out of the backfield. And to me, it certainly seems like a guy that would definitely fit in Sean Payton's offense. It's, I know for me, again, I would love to find that guy that's going to hit 3.5 to 4 yards every single time, have those breakaways. But to sit there and add a guy that, I suppose he could be a little bit like RJ Harvey. RJ's big thing is catching out of the backfield, and he was pretty effective at that this season. But man, to have another weapon like that that's taken over, I thought Jaleel. I thought Jaleel was going to have some really great opportunities, and he faded at the beginning of the year, and then seemed like that's all we have left is to bring Jaleel back after RJ, and I just never felt like he got that opportunity. So maybe it's a guy we need to bring in with some new wheels and get some things going. And certainly that type of guy with those kind of stats, I certainly think, especially if you're getting 15 total touchdowns, you're certainly getting the ball where we need it to be. So that's another one of my down the hill on the draft. And again, he's not somebody that I think has to be somebody that they have to go real high for.
Yeah, but 6th, 7th round, give a little competition to Tyler Bidet, Jaleel.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've seen the Broncos hold probably way more running backs than we actually need on the roster week to week. So that would be a real interesting one. The dual threat makes sense.
Yep.
As long as he can pass block, then we're good.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and then I guess my last pick, and I do kind of this is very situational. I don't know if this would actually happen, but with Mr. Irrelevant, we talked about a Chad Kelly. I think a good Mr. Irrelevant pick would be Joe Fagnano from UConn. I don't know if you guys have heard about Jim. You're shaking your head. 6'4", 225. Little low on the completion percentage, but he threw the ball a lot at UConn. Just his senior stats: 3,448 yards, 28 touchdowns. What impresses me is 1 interception. I think in his entire college career, he's only thrown 6. And maybe that has to do with the competition he's playing against, but he plays within a structure. He doesn't have the best arm talent throwing outside the numbers or outside the hashes, but to me, in that kind of Sean Payton offense where we love throwing screens, over the middle passes, and an occasional deep shot down the field, I think if maybe Stidham does get traded, he's in the last year of his contract. I think that's a Mr. Irrelevant, or at least an undrafted free agent that gets picked up by, potentially by us. And then maybe that's a Sam Ehlinger, Joe Fagnano quarterback 2 competition. And I wouldn't be too bad at that.
Right. I think Ehlinger has got a lot. There's a lot of talk on him these days, and I think that's something that I think Sean starts looking at, because how many how many teams wanted him last year? There were a number of guys that started picking up
Yeah.
the phone, and wanted
Mhm.
to talk about him. Stidham now, I think that there's a lot of teams that are out there looking, going, yeah, I don't know, maybe he's not. Certainly, we're not feeling great, and seeing what happened with us in the AFC Championship. So I think to your point, I think that is something they can turn around and look at and look for a guy that's going to be good. And 5 or 10 years, it can be that's understudy. Getting ready to see where he's at until either a big name comes up or he ends up being the guy at some point in time too. So I totally agree with you on that pick.
Yeah, I like it. Stidham's in his last year. We're gonna have to pay Bo. I don't think you can pay a backup what we're paying Stidham when Bo gets his cash. So you gotta find the depth. Is I'm good with Mr. Yukon. He's tall, and when I hear tall quarterbacks, I only think of Paxton Lynch. So as long as we don't need him as our starting quarterback, then this is great. But you're like spot on with the accuracy, limiting the mistakes. That is what we need.
Yeah, we don't need someone pushing the ball two-handed to then cause a fumble
In the AFC
and set up a
Championship
potential, and set up a easy touchdown in the AFC Championship. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, flip side, he makes that play. He wins that game. Even if we lose in the Super Bowl, Stidham has a legit chance to be a starter this year. So, like, the back of his mind, I get it. You want to do stuff good for your team, but oof.
Yeah.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yep. That was in being there, that was a tale of two games. That is for sure. To sit there and see the field in the second half, didn't even see the scoreboard at the other end, and it's like, where are we at? What just happened? It was just that's the whole thing. I think, all honesty, go back to that game. If the snow doesn't happen, I think they find a way. But once those conditions deteriorated, it was, you just see it was almost as well. And we hadn't played in snow the whole season, which is one of those wonderful Colorado weather type situations for us for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, O-line. So I've got a couple O-line picks. Coach, I liked your first one that you talked about. I think that dude would be a stud. I think the O-line, we need more depth. We had a couple injuries throughout the season. Ben Powers went down. That was unfortunate. I think he's got a year or two left on his contract, so we need some depth there. Our offensive line is expensive. I'm fine spending that money. We got to keep Bo upright. It's going to help the running game. But my favorite player on the O-line is the belly, Mr. Quinn Miners. And I feel like that is now our recipe of like, let's find a gritty dude like that just absolutely loves football. And so that's really what I was searching for. And I found Bo Stevens, left guard from Iowa. No BS, dude. Comes from a wrestling background, so just like Quinn Miners. Really focused on being a run blocking kind of mauler type dude. Zone is his exact fit. That's what they played a lot at in Iowa. Last year of his career in college, 0 sacks allowed, 0 QB hits, 98.7% pass block rate with 682 snaps. So he was reliable, played a lot through college. He kept the quarterback clean. Also, that team last year generated 5 200-yard rushing games. Now, obviously, this is not college, but if we can get a guy that, a year sitting on the bench, learning from Quinn, learning from Ben Powers, like this might be a Ben Powers backup and put us in a pretty good spot in the future. And he's just got a great football name, Bo Stevens. Simple, ready to go. But go watch some film with him if you guys haven't seen it. Dude's just a beast.
Is he just pancaking everyone?
He was pancaking dudes.
Nice. Love it.
Well, that's those guys. I mean, I was just sitting here looking at it. You had Quinn Miners again. When he first came in, everybody loved the look and the way he is, but you kind of looked at him like, guy might not be in great shape. And I'm sitting here looking at it. He had a 90.9 overall PFF grade for 2025.
Stud.
If we could turn around and get another guy like that, absolutely. We're feeling a lot better about our run game and feeling a lot better about keeping the quarterback clean. That's for sure.
And we've got to find it because you got to have one or two guys depth that have a ton of promise that we can get on rookie deals and not have to pay for like 3 or 4 years. That's just going to expand our window just a little bit more. So I really liked him. The other guy, and I don't really know projection wise of offensive line. I think it's just difficult to predict in general. And these guys aren't the top 15, but a kind of another sleeper, probably 6th, 7th round. I'd be interested if he went into the 5th. But I'll explain why he's probably going to go 6th or 7th. Billy Schrouth out of Notre Dame. So my overall scheme was like, well, if you get Jadarian Price for some reason, again, that would be telling because they would probably have to reach for him. Then you've got his blocking buddy right there. He's definitely more of a developmental pick. He lacks a little bit of that finesse, but he's 305 pounds. He's a huge dude. They play at Notre Dame. They put a ton of inside zone, a lot of play action. So it'd be a good fit for what we're doing here. The piece that scares me a little bit, but this is why you take him 7th round. He suffered a sprained MCL last season. So he only played 7 games. And then he missed 4 games the previous year with an ankle injury. So maybe he's even an undrafted candidate, but could be an interesting player to look at if we just want more of that depth. Take a flyer and a guy and see what happens.
It's a great pick. It sounds like a pretty solid pick, especially if we can get him in a 7th round or potentially undrafted due to the injuries. It seems like a very solid pick to me.
Any other picks from you guys? Could be any player on the offensive side.
I mentioned.
Do you reach for anybody if you fall in love?
I don't know if it's the draft to do that.
I know.
I don't know if it's a pretty thin draft by most means. I think running back is probably maybe isn't the could be. I think later round running backs is probably where you're gonna find your quote unquote stud, your diamond in the rough. I mentioned him earlier, Kalen Black from Indiana. He stays low. He drives his feet. He's very good in pass protection, good vision. He's very patient behind the O-line. He is limited in that pass game, but we do have RJ Harvey, who gives me the Joseph Adai kind of vibes, where he's a great pass catcher for a running back, and but he is a little undersized. But I just think he's a very good solid pick around that 6th, 7th round. That could be your diamond in the rough.
Yeah, I mean, like if you get someone that's in that like Isaiah Pacheco, Denver boy Philip Lindsay, like little undersized, but if they've got the motor and the juice, they add some more competition, more depth there. I think that could be a real interesting play in that 7th round spot.
Yeah. I mean, with RJ Harvey, he's a bit of a smaller guy at running back too, but we saw him great center of gravity, where a few times during the season he'd catch the ball out of the backfield, nobody's blocking for him. He gets hit and he takes the hit and just shrugs it off and goes and gets a first down. I mean, being a smaller guy with a better center of gravity who can take a hit but also give the hit, there's no really downside if that's your build as a smaller running back.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting just sitting here looking at the roster too. Of course, we talked about Adam Prentice being signed as the fullback. Clearly, the running game has to be getting bigger. I mean, most teams don't carry fullback anymore. So what are they going to do with Adam Prentice? Seems like they got to get that guy. And like you said, if they can get a guy, get him to the edge. I wish they would go back to more of the running of the edge, but it seems like we continually keep running everything between the tackles. So, going up and finding that running back, like you said, they go up in there and just go knock the tar out of somebody. It's low to the ground, low center of gravity. Your guy Braden sounds like a good pick for us for sure.
Yeah, we need to get back into this into old school power eye formation for sure.
100%. I am all about the power eye. Let me tell you, good running game allows for everything. I've coached some really good passing teams. I've worked with some quarterbacks that you never know that they were top 10 in the state of Colorado, and 9 times out of 10 is because they had a 1,000-yard plus rusher behind them, and that certainly helped them out a bunch. So,
I mean, we've barely scratched the 1,000-yard running backs these past couple seasons. Like,
yep.
I would love to smash that this year.
Absolutely.
If J.K. Dobbins doesn't get that hip drop tackle, he's going for 1,000. So I believe in J.K. Dobbins to be that guy to get that 1,000.
Sure. And that's, I was just looking at the running back room. We have J.K., we've got RJ Harvey, Tyler Beatty, Jaleel McLaughlin, Cody Schrader, and Deuce Vaughn. And right now, none of those guys, other than our top two, really say much for what we have. I don't think Beatty is a great guy, but I think he's a special teamer. Jaleel, I continue to see flashes of him. It's just that, again, it's just just don't see enough. Just don't see enough out of him to really sit there and say that's our third down guy if we need a passer. It's nice to see RJ come out of there, but again, we need some guys that can really, if we're going to continue to keep running through the tackles or between the tackles, those guys got to come up. So.
100%. All right, to wrap this up, we got our own guy, our other Broncos and friend Eric chiming in. Zachariah Branch, wide receiver from USC. That dude's a stud. I think we would be daydreaming a little bit if we go and grab him. Unfortunately, that'd be pretty early. We might have to jump up, but one can hope. One can hope.
For sure. For sure.
Well, everybody, that wraps up our second episode of Broncos Zone, completing the offensive side path to the draft. Join us next week when we tackle the defensive side. I lose Coach Jim, I lose Braden, but we get back Eric and Vince, which will be fun. We'll tackle everything defense. And then what are we? 2 weeks out from, I think we're going to do our kind of draft style where we'll each take a team and just go around the horn for the first couple rounds, which will be fun. So tune in for that as well. But we will see you next week, bring you any exciting news that happens as we're still in the quiet part of the off season. But appreciate everybody for tuning in. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, follow, and we'll see you next week.
And
thanks,
before
everybody.
we go,
Oh, yes.
once again, before we go,
Oh,
so Colin Cowherd commented on our post that we posted last week, and I had my hat on backwards. Posted that it was my biggest fear for him to see that, but I got it this week. Got it correct.
Take that, Colin Cowherd.
Yes, he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. So just wanted to say
we might all have to rock
no
hat.
No. Absolutely. There it is.
There it is.
3 Super Bowls, hoping to add a 4th one here before too long, Colin. So.
Yeah. All right.
Working it.
I love it. I love it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Take care.